Geek Outings going a little left field today. Kobe passed not too long ago, and we're all from LA. It's affected us. I'm a Clipper and a Laker fan, so I'm a weird person. But Kobe's the one that got me into basketball mid '90s. Strutter hates the fact I brought both up right now. We're just here to just kind of talk about him a little bit, memories, things you remember, yawn about him. Uh,
You fallen asleep at Clipper playoff games, so don't fucking talk to me about yawning.
yeah, because Kobe wasn't on the team, bro. And it was in the bathroom, okay?
No, Woolsey sent me a picture of you sleeping in a chair at a seat.
No, I threw up in the lady's chair next to me on her seat, and Woolsey had to get the free T-shirt we got to clean it up. And then obviously I'm sick, so I go to the bathroom and I just passed out, and I woke up and the stadium was empty. It was awesome. True Ed stories. So my Kobe memories really is going to the Forum for the Lakers playoff game, his first playoff game when they were playing the Rockets, and he airballed that 3-point shot in the last minute. Dale Harris was the coach, and I was like, dude. But I watched him during the warm-ups, and when he jumped and dunked, like, it was crazy, man. He had crazy explosiveness, and seeing that shot, I was like, oh, all right, whatever. That's just natural talent going to waste. And then watching him his whole life was just amazing. So many memories with my friends, these guys included.
Where were we at where Ori hit the three to beat San Antonio, or was it Sacramento? I want to say I was with a bunch of people when that shot went down, and Kobe was on that team.
I know the Staples, like at the bar. I was there for the Portland game too, and you guys were at Dom. So tell me that Portland story, because I just like watching Pippen throw the fucking towels all over the place after the game. That was amazing.
Strutter?
For me, Kobe was LA, especially after I had moved to San Francisco. He had started his rookie season my first year that I had been in the city, and I had never really kind of noticed what a connection he was to the town for me, and not just the town, but to my friends. At the end of the day, like, these are spectator sports. We are not playing. We are watching them. And yeah, they watch, and when we see our teams win, that's awesome. But what's awesome is when you turn to the person that's next to you, and they're your friend, and they're a Lakers fan also, and they're just as fucking as excited as you are, and you're looking at each other, and you're like, ah! Like, somewhere within that screen is sports, is connectivity, is like around the campfire, raiding the other village. Like, there's just something ingrained into us at a certain visceral level. And on that idea of having the greatest warriors, like, if Kobe's wearing our colors, like I guess for me, so much of it was when I was watching Kobe, especially in the Bay, getting a lot of hate, being in enemy territory. It made me much more proud of purple and gold and wearing my colors, especially when they're winners, when they're champions, when they're pulling off amazing things. When I know somewhere my family is watching the same thing, somewhere my friends are watching the same game, we're going to scream. And with the advent of cell phones and us being just more and more connected, you get, as soon as a crazy shot was hit, you would get that bzzz in your hip, and you'd be like, fuck yeah. Like, you know, like, again, I was away from the city, but for 2/3 of a year, I could be in LA 2 hours a day, a couple of times a week. And when I say Kobe was LA, I mean, like, leading man handsome, the hero of the game, the villain to the other team, like, everything that was truly just embroiled in the spotlight of what it is to be LA, which is why I personally think that his controversy should be a part of it. He shouldn't be canonized. It shouldn't be turned into a sainthood, because the sexual assault and that dirtiness is also a part of LA. He is not a Weinstein, obviously, but if we're going to make LA synonymous with Hollywood, we're going to admit that Hollywood churns out actresses, but then there's the Weinstein factor. I don't necessarily, again, want to get too much into any of that, but I think that it's very interesting how complicated it is, because after that whole fallout had happened, what Kobe ends up doing with his legacy and going forward, like the fact of the matter is that when he came correct and he fessed, he made the acquittal and got dropped and did the payment and changed his ways, that's the inspiration. People aren't inspired and don't want to go out, little athletes don't want to go out and become rapists. They want to go out and make the world better. They want to go out and be inspirational in the same way that Kobe did. And instead of disappearing, he went out and said, hey, I fucked up. I know that this is going to be a part of my story. How do I make amends to the universe that's given me 4 beautiful daughters, and I don't want this to happen to them? So Kobe's just a lot. It means a lot to me. I literally cried pretty hard that first day, kind of hard the second day. My dad passed away last year. I watched a lot of games with him. No matter how bad things were going between us, we could always talk about Kobe and the Lakers. My buddy Colin passed away last year. That's who I would go and see the Lakers with every year. So Kobe's dying definitely dredged up a lot of grieving because of what I was saying before about that spectators, because of who I was watching it with, because of what he symbolized beyond the court, not just in charitable actions and being a community leader, but what he symbolized in my life as connectivity with friends.
Just
Love you, Kobe.
Just to add on that, like what you're saying about Kobe and like him being able, like originally it's just being a sports fan and like you can communicate to anybody, but being from LA specifically, like you meet other people from LA, you're at a bar or wherever. Oh, what part of LA you from? You know, it becomes like this, you know, red line between cities and stuff. But if you're a Laker fan, boom, we're all good. But then, you know, after Shaq leaves, it becomes Kobe's town. And it was bad for a little while, but it's a lot of work. I mean, life is work, you know what I mean? But you're
Powell brought it back. Powell Gasol.
But you're going through that struggle with other people, like even though you don't know them. So when you're at those games that they lose or the games they win, you're all connected. And being outside of LA now, and I see Laker fans out here, it still is Kobe, even though he hasn't played for a couple of years. You know what I mean? It's still Kobe that ties everything together. And Kobe is definitely LA, and I think that's kind of what you're talking about, Rob. You know, like, yeah, you watch all those things in LA with your dad or with your friends or in other places that are LA fans, but like he's from Philadelphia. He lived in Italy, but he will always be LA.
But isn't that the most LA thing? Like, isn't like the West Coast?
Unfortunately.
Like, you know, like the West Coast is where people end up. And I think that part of his story about not being born and bred, but being from somewhere else and then adopting, like LA is a city of orphans. LA is a city of people looking to make their dreams come true. And I think that's real interesting. And what you bring up about him crossing lines and crossing neighborhoods, crossing racial divisions, like seeing the LA Live, and like there were a lot of gangsters up at LA Live, like a lot of like 1 week out cholos that I saw up at that spot. But there was fucking black gangsters too, and there was K-Town gangsters and like all these other people. And it made me realize like Kobe was this true unifying factor. And like you were saying, he dissolved neighborhoods. You, no matter where you were from, could like him. It's hard to explain to people who aren't from LA that Lakers aren't a part of a town. Like that new commercial is like, the Lakers represent 310, the Clippers represent 213, and I'm like, this is a fucking lie. Like, no, and that's a very confusing thing to out of town people, especially in places like New York where the Mets have queens. You know, like that's their fan base, and the cities are just divided across their team lines, and the Lakers just transcend. For a huge city, everyone's a Lakers fan, and there's no. Like people are like, well, where do the Clippers live? And I'm like, well, like everyone knows. Clippers are always like somebody knows a Clippers fan. No one knows. No one's an actual Clippers fan. Everyone always knows a Clippers fan, except for apparently Woolsey. I apologize, Woolsey.
Shout out Danny Gamero and Andres Castillo. Go ahead. What you want, Lucy? What's your?
A lot of stuff to unpack. Kobe. Well, gosh, he was Lakers 20. It's interesting that Magic Johnson was a Laker for 20 years, and then Kobe was a Laker for 20 years, and Kobe died first. Like Magic is still like the original lifetime Laker, but and has had AIDS or HIV for fucking 15, 20 years now, and Kobe died first. It's crazy. It's mind-blowing. I don't know. It's a weird thing to think about. About racism and Kobe, it was interesting. Rob Strader was around like just this last week. I had posted something about Kobe, and I had also posted something on my Facebook account about Donald Trump being a hypocrite. And I got like, hey, you can be supportive of Donald Trump, but I had people literally attacking me for pointing that out, and then attacking my Kobe post at the same time, calling Kobe a rapist, and the same person's defending Donald Trump at the same time, like on the hypocritical side. Like it blew my mind. I'm like, this dude's like, it's sad. It was like it hurt me. I'm like, wow. You could say like he got out of it because he had money and he's a celebrity, and then you're gonna attack me for this, like, and Donald Trump has been attacked for being a fucking like paying chicks off for the same exact thing. Anyway, I don't like to get into political diatribes, but I just something to think about.
I don't want to shit on your hero.
Bobby, I work with kids. I work with young men, and I've used Kobe and his passing all week as an example. And there's no way that it's complicated history in regards to sexual assaults, and the fallout from that doesn't get addressed, but it is extremely complicated, as not only was the modern idea of quote-unquote consent different than the old school
Do you want
idea?
me to break it down to you? And it came down to this argument that I had with Marcus. It's like, look, even if the whole thing was consensual until he fucked her in the ass, if she said no and he stuck his dick in her ass when she didn't want it, he's a bad person. Sorry, that's all I have to say. Between good and bad people,
and so
that's a clear divider for me.
Okay, well, then that's fine, and I'm not arguing against that. I think that concept, again, of consent, more, I think, nuanced and put behind all of this is the inherent racism that was going on during the basically persecution of Kobe at that point, because not only do you have this old school idea of white woman, black man, which is the most offensive combination in American history, especially when you throw in this idea of rape. Like we have Emmett Till and all of these other things that splice out of that. But then you also have Kobe at that time was an uppity nigger. Like he was confident, he was a champion, he was winning, he could do anything he wanted, and there was definitely an attitude of knocking him down a peg or two. I am not saying that has anything to do necessarily with the sexual. That has nothing to do necessarily with the sexual assault, but that has to do with the way that we digested the information about the sexual assault after it, and that is inextricable. Homegirl, they end up not pursuing.
Faye Caber.
So there's, I think, an aspect of
Kay
women,
Faber. Sorry.
There's an aspect of women being silenced by powerful men, especially celebrities. I think that there's also something speaking to the chauvinism of the justice system, where it's better for a woman to get paid out than to go completely to court and have her whole life put out on trial and exposed. I think that there can also never be unlocked from this the idea of a gold digger who is looking for an opportunity to cash in on a celebrity star, and that her story might not hold as true as was put out. So again, I say, like,
She
I
had
think that,
3 different samples in her. Yeah,
and I don't
she's
want
a
to.
party girl. She's not the fucking church going, all this.
I'm not a sex shamer, Bobby. That's not what I do.
I know. I'm saying, but of course there are those things. I'm not sex shaming her either. I'm just admitting the facts that are public knowledge.
And what's more important, because I'm not going to try to change your mind and make you think that Kobe is a good person, because rape is wrong. Like, that's just a black and white situation, and I agree with that. But I think that there is something to be said about what a person does with their life after. And Kobe could have just done the payout and disappeared and just gone away from public life. But I definitely think that there's something the universe gave him 4 daughters. First off, like, the universe was like, you have to look into your daughter's eyes and think, would I ever want my child to be put into this position for the rest of his, what was now unfortunately a short life. But more importantly, he ended up paying it forward in the sense of being a champion for women's sports, women's rights, women's advocacy, doing a lot with his power and with his name. Now, mind you, again, this is because his daughters exist, and his daughters opened his eyes to a lot of these things and made him be like, yo, I should be going to these WNBA games. The WNBA could have easily folded had it not been for the face of Kobe going to games, because it doesn't matter who is the number 1 person playing. If Kobe's sitting courtside, that's all of a sudden a televisable game. Like, it's I think, interestingly and nuanced. And Kobe at some point also, and again, this is between Kobe and the girl, that's one thing. Kobe and making amends amongst himself. Kobe had to talk to his now 17-year-old daughter at one point about that situation, because she was old enough to know something was happening. So Kobe had this monologue and this dialogue within himself and being like, yo, like, I have to not come clean, like not come correct, but come clean with my daughter about this, and then give her the information to make sure that she doesn't get taken advantage of at some point and get put into a position where she's uncomfortable. So I think that, again, I believe you, and I understand why Kobe's broken for you, but I think that there's a lot to be said about what he did with his legacy when he had the opportunity to have to do nothing.
Okay, and Rob, I hear everything you're saying. Very articulate, very eloquent. I totally appreciate it.
I mean, you're not a sports guy. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not, like, tripping.
No, exactly. And I felt like ever since he did that, he was a rapist. Okay, so he changed his number.
So,
oh, cool. Now he's a different player. No, number 8 was the rapist, not number 24.
So you don't like Michael Jackson's music anymore?
It's really hard to listen to Pretty Young Thing and not feel weird.
I get that, but do you not like his music now because, like, of what happened? And he did not bounce back like Kobe. So you don't have the rebirth story.
That's actually a great. We would say, and this is the thing, because I will say this, like, Kobe's situation was not an anomaly within the sports world, right? Like, but to Ed's point, as opposed to, well, R. Kelly, let alone Michael Jackson, Kobe had this, what we would now look to be as an anomaly within his career. He doesn't cheat on Vanessa even at any other point. You know, like, nothing ends up coming out. Kobe ends up being touted as one of the best dads, all these other things. So I agree that what he did is bad. I don't think it tarnishes his legacy as much as it shows that people are complicated.
No, it's all hearsay about what happened that day in that room or that place or whatever. But you can look at his, like, accomplishments and his legacy, and, like, him teaching his daughter to try to, be a basketball player because she had the hunger, and, like, having to realize you can't use that same energy through those eyes, whether it's just because it's not him or it's a female. There's different. He learned so much, like, variation after that once he had his kids. I have a daughter, man. She's 18. I know what it's like. You say a lot of stupid things when you're younger until you have a female you're taken care of. And then all of a sudden it's like, man, I said, and I did a lot of stupid shit growing up. And now I'm not paying for it through her, but all of my actions forward are paying for what I did before. And through her, I get some redemption, but I'm not forgiven.
I don't feel like this makes for a good show, and you guys should talk about Kobe and how much he meant to you. And this thing between, this is for us to digest and dissect, whatever. Like,
I disagree. Bobby, you're not the only person who feels like that, and you're not the only person that I put that forward to. The reason why I'm so articulate is because I've made this point out to various people throughout. People that are a lot more liberal, a lot more aggressively liberal than you are. Again, my point isn't to convince you and to change your opinion on what the idea of rape is. My point is to be like, there is a larger spectrum that he ended up playing a part in. And
yeah, so what is Kobe's legacy? What is his legacy? His legacy, people will bring that up, but I think ultimately his legacy, for me my personal thing is, I watched that man on TV and in person, like when I think about it, more than any other person ever. For as many Laker games as I watched, 2.5 hour Laker games, and I was the guy that had cable TV, and I watched every single game, home and away, and watched it through. I became a Laker fan towards the tail end of the Showtime Lakers. But not even the tail end, probably like the heart of the Showtime Lakers. I used to go to games with my mom. She'd get tickets through work. And the first game I remember watching, like Brian Scott, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and getting on that. And then when the Lakers started winning championships again with Kobe and Shaq, like they had their run, man. And that, watching Kobe play in particular, brought me as much joy as watching anything else on TV ever.
All we're doing is talk. We're basically giving viewpoints for everybody right now. I mean, it's not, and you're expressing yourself. There's no right or wrong. All we do is talk, man. It's not big. Editor coming to you from LA today. Actually, it's where I'm from most of my life.
Right.
Closing out San Antonio, Texas, home of the Spurs.
Hey, Rob Lucy, 3 different guys from 3 different cities, all from LA. Rest in peace, Kobe. Yeah, I'll remember him for the rest of my life in fond ways, and sitting down with you guys watching games with him and bringing us so much joy. Anyway, peace.
Kobe, you get to be the legend like you played like. Thank you for all the memories. Thank you for fucking inspiring people. Thank you for inspiring me. Even in death, you continue to be a force of energy. Not everyone is so lucky to be a force while they're still alive. This is Boba Fresh. Be fresh. 8 seconds out, 24 seconds out. Run the clock out. LA, L.A. L.A.